So in this video, I will be sharing a game with you against an 1800 and explain exactly all the moves with a very surprising ending. Watch till the end to find out. The first opening moves are e4, d6, d4, c6. Yeah, so my opponent went for this weird setup, and then later they played queen a5. I think that's called the check defense or something like that, or the perk. Not exactly sure, but nothing special happened in the opening. I just developed my bishop, kicked out the bishop on g4 with f3, and then castled long, queen a5. Yeah, this is like some weird opening where you play queen a5 after playing c6. Sometimes it pins the knight when your king is on e1, and the bishop puts some pressure on the center, and also the queen is looking at the a2 pawn, so that was interesting at the very least. And my opponent, after me playing f4, decided to go back with the bishop for whatever reason, trying to target my rook, but I already had a good move planned for that, so I just exchanged the bishops and I was completely happy. And now e5, and I was trying to open up the center basically. If takes, I'm gonna take either way, and then my queen is opened up or the f file is opened up. It's good for me. And if he pushes, my idea was somehow pushing pawns on the king side to create some kind of pawn storm. So that was kind of the idea, and it was, yeah, g4 is the best move, so knight b6. And knight b6 is actually a very good move here, threatening knight c4, forking my queen and bishop. So I definitely had to do something about that. So I played b3, which is the best move. Even though it weakens my dark squares, it's actually, black is not actually threatening to checkmate me anytime soon. The bishop is still far away from getting activated, and this check doesn't really do anything. I just move my king, and if I really needed to, I can always trade the queens. I had two dark square defenders, so everything was fine. I pushed f5, trying to open up some stuff over there. Yeah, bishop f8. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I really got scared of this bishop landing on a3, checking my king. I have to then move my king over, and then there is knight b4, forking my queen and bishop again, but this time the difference is the pawn doesn't actually stop the knight from going there, because if I take queen check, and then it's checkmate on b2. It's kind of hard to visualize this because of those arrows, but bishop a3, I go here, and then knight b4, forking my pieces. Let's say I take, there is queen check, and then I move my king, and then queen b2 is checkmate, because the bishop is on a3. So I really got scared because of that. I also calculated king b1. King b1, and the engine says it's the best move, but I actually still got scared. So let's say, for instance, something like this, and then h4, and then knight b4 is what I saw. And it's a brilliant move too. If I take, there's checkmate. So I obviously couldn't take, but if I didn't take, my pieces are forked. I have to move my queen, and then there's like knight b2 attacking my queen once again, and then this knight is, I didn't actually calculate knight b2, by the way. I just thought they were gonna take my bishop, but my intuition was correct. This position is not what I want. So instead of all that, I played knight a4, immediately trying to exchange the queens off the board because I didn't want to get checkmated. Also, if bishop b4, I was gonna play c3, so that was fine. So they took, and I took, and here I got a little bit relieved because I'm not gonna get checkmated now. My pawn structure will be damaged though, but that was something I was going to accept anyway because it's much better dealing with this attack on my king. So they took, I took, and they took again. Technically, they won a pawn, but I calculated that after like rook f1 and then knight g3, this pawn is going to be lost anyway, since it's doubled and isolated. So I didn't really think of that being a pawn up for him, not a clean pawn at least. Yeah, and the engine actually agreed. I was slightly better, which is really weird. It's actually plus 0.91 here and then 0.5. Black isn't even better because all their pieces are still on the back rank. So that was the advantage I had going for me. So I brought my pieces in, attacking this f5 pawn. Rook g8, very good move. If I take this pawn, they're gonna take back. No. They're gonna check with the rook, and if I block with the rook, they're gonna take, I take, and my knight is hanging. And if I move my king, the rook is just gonna be on the second rank. Yeah, and the engine says that's actually a mistake because of knight d6, king moves, and then you can capture the pawn on here. I didn't see that. I'm just completely honest, I didn't see that. But what I did saw was the rook being annoying for me. So instead I went knight h5, trying to go for this fork on f6. Black is going to be having a hard time getting rid of this knight. So they give a check. I blocked with my rook, takes, bishop h6, and we traded off the bishops as well. Technically, that's good for him since he's up a pawn, but yeah, I mean, his rook is still inactive, and he still has to bring his pieces in, while my pieces can be mobilized immediately. So he castled long, and I brought my knight to f6, covering this g8 square for the rook to not come on this file. And from here, my plan was bring the rook onto the open file, control this file, and then maybe bring the rook on g7, attacking this pawn, and then eventually win back some material. That was my idea. Knight g8. Oh yeah, if knight g8, I was going to take the h7 pawn. Yeah, that was also a consideration. So h6, I was not even threatening to take the pawn actually, because the rook was gonna come to the h file, attacking my knight. And when I move, the pawn is going to be taken, and yeah, it's a disaster. So I didn't want to take that pawn anyway, so I brought my rook. Knight g6, yeah, very good move here, blocking my rook from coming to the g7 square. And then, yeah, here at this point, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't improve my rook, I couldn't improve my knight, I couldn't push this pawn since it's just gonna get taken. So I just pushed the pawns over here, maybe trying to create some weaknesses, who knows. And f4 check, I moved out of the way, and c5. And c5, I thought that if I was going to take, he was going to take my pawn with check 2. And even if I take this pawn, I just didn't like this position, to be honest. I lost basically my 2 strong pawns in the center, and look at these doubled and isolated pawns. That's terrible. The king is going to move away, rook is going to come in, and it's basically GG. So I protected my pawn instead. Oh yeah, there's like some crazy sacrifices here. Rook takes g6, and then I can push my pawn, and there is nothing he can do to stop that pawn. That's extremely crazy, like, to me. And then you have to play like rook d6, push, and then rook here, and then I promote. I have a knight, and you just have a king and pawns. yeah, I didn't even consider that, to be honest. So I protected my pawn instead. Takes, king here. And here, after takes, I calculated rook c1. He's probably going to play rook c8, and then we're probably like going to exchange the rooks, and then I'm kind of going to be screwed, because once the rooks get exchanged, and then yeah, what am I going to do? I'm down a pawn. This knight needs to move so I can take this pawn. So it was still kind of unclear how that would benefit me, but I didn't know what else to play. So here we are, rook c1, and then rook c8. And then I figured out something. There is knight d7 check. And the game is just over. I didn't know knight d7 check was possible, calculating a few moves before. And then we got to the position, and that's when I saw knight d7 check. King has to move, and then I take the rook, and it's checkmate. And the game is just over from that point. Like that kind of shows the reality of just chess in general. You can have a perfect game, you can have a almost flawless game, being up a pawn, and then you slowly kind of improve your position. Boom, there is a tactic, and then the game is just over. Like it's kind of brutal if you think about it. And my opponent resigned. I hope you enjoyed my video and managed to learn something. If you did, consider subscribing and commenting. Otherwise, goodbye.